In between these two mountains is this flat area. This is called the valley. This is where Maui gets its nickname, the Valley Isle. And the valley is where all the sugar cane is being raised. Now this is all sugar cane in front of us. At one time we used to have 1 million acres of it and 54 sugar mills to process it. And in 1990, the federal government told both the sugar and pineapple industry to figure out a way to become profitable. They couldn't afford to keep subsidizing. We went from 1 million acres of sugar cane down to 37,000. We went from 54 sugar mills down to only one. These are the last 37,000 acres of sugar left in the whole state of Hawaii. We're the only island still raising sugar. And the last sugar mill, right here on the right, Pu'unene. That's also the newest of all the sugar mills. Yeah, this one was built in 1899. All the other ones were built from 1840 on up. Now, these last 37,000 acres of sugarcane here are owned by a company called Alexander and Baldwin, A&B. Alexander and Baldwin were missionaries that came over back in the 1820s to bring not only Christianity, but also medicine and westernization of the Hawaiian Islands. And in 1862, their kids went up to King Kalakaua and said, King, we want to lease out this whole Central Valley to raise sugar. King says, well, that's fine, but where are you going to get the water? See, for every pound of sugar, it takes 1 ton of water, phenomenal amount. You're only getting 10 to 12 inches of rain here. But where's the water coming from? They said, well, we thought about that. We want to build 72 miles worth of aqueducts and canals. We want to bring the water from the rainforest, the other side of Haleakala, down to the Central Valley here. Beyond that, we want to build 52 of the 72 miles in tunnels. Now, why tunnels? Well, when you're a rainforest, that means you have a minimum 100 inches of rain a year. This road we go on gets up to 240 inches of rain a year. When you get that much rain, you have a lot of rock slides, a lot of mudslides, a lot of green waste. If that was to collect in open ditches, it would cause blockages in the flow of water. Building tunnels helps this problem. So the king says, well, that's pretty ambitious. He says, I don't know if you can get it done, but I'll give you 2 years. You finish the system, I'll honor the leases. Otherwise, I'm going to do something else with all this land. So the next problem they had is where they were going to find the skilled labor to build this system. They decided on bringing over 200 Chinese immigrants from the West Coast, busy building railroad tracks. They were used to working with picks and shovels, making bridges, tunnels. But more so, they were experienced in the use of dynamite. They knew there'd be a lot of dynamite involved. So they brought them over, and they got the system done about 3 weeks ahead of time. Now the great engineering feat is they bring the water from 72 miles away to the Central Valley here without using a single pump. They didn't have any pumps back then. So the way they did it, if they needed the water to speed up, they built long straightaways. If they wanted it to slow down, they put twists and bends in it. Started incorporating water gates. They could open them and close them manually, yeah? Now, it's easy enough to get water to flow downhill. How do you get it to flow back up a hill without a pump? Well, there is a way. When the water comes down the hill, you force it into these large pipes. Now, you force too much water into a small opening, water starts to circulate inside that pipe. When it does that, it pushes all the air out, which in turn creates a vacuum. Starts drawing the water through the pipe much faster than gravity flow. It's called the Venturi principle. They still use this system today. It brings down about 300 million gallons a day. Now of that, the sugar industry uses 190 million, and the rest go for domestic uses. So why the big demand for sugar? Started with the gold rush, California, 1849. A lot of people moving to the West Coast. Yeah. Well, by the 1860s, the West Coast was becoming very popular, all the way from San Diego on up to Seattle, Washington. And the only states raising sugar back then was on the other side of the country. You had Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. And in order to get the sugar to the West Coast, you had to bring it over with horses and wagons. Well, they couldn't bring enough sugar over. There's big problems back then. You had the Civil War going on. You had the lack of roads. They hadn't connected the railway system for 10 more years, not until 1872. And worse than all of that, you had the startup of the Indian Wars. And the Native Americans weren't real happy with all these Westerners crossing over their lands. So what sugar that did leave, very little of it made it to the West Coast. And that which did was ridiculously expensive. So there was a guy over in Southern California named Klaus Sprinkle. He said, you know, your fair share of water. So Klaus decides to come out here. A couple nice little restaurants. Sign right there says, please don't feed the hippies. Yeah. Gene Simmons, the band Kiss, he just opened up a restaurant here. Right next to Willie's. So you got rock and roll and then you got country western right next to each other. Great place to eat here on the left. Flatbread Company, all organic food, cooked in clay ovens, wood burning stoves. Very nice. If you like fish, this place right here, Bahia Fish Market, excellent. Yeah, great fish sandwiches. And then of course you got to go to Willie's place up here. Got a great signature dish. Come over. Back at 14th Dalai Lama. Yeah. And everybody wanted to go see him, so we all went down here. Here comes this police escorted motorcade, you know. All these cars pull up in front of the temple. And all the priests come out. Here's the Dalai Lama. He's being carried by 4 priests on this big chair. And he's sitting cross-legged on the chair, and he's coming down the street. They put him in front of the microphone, and he looks around, he goes, I found out on Maui I'm a very giving person. Then he leans back. We're all waiting for this, you know, profound follow-up. He goes, yes. Now we come up here, a very famous little restaurant up here called Mama's Fish House. Anybody here of Mama's Fish House? No? Great place to eat. He's had it for 40 years. For 30 years, he was in the top 100 restaurants in the United States. Right here on the left. He is now ranked number 10 in the whole United States. Wonderful place to eat. Meanwhile, on the left, this is Ho'okipa Beach Park. This is where we get some of our largest waves on the island. These waves come in the wintertime. And we're in the wintertime right now. Our wintertime is from October through March. Yeah? And why are the biggest waves here? It's the North Shore. The North Shore of all the islands are your biggest, 4 to 5 foot. Yeah? Now surfing is very competitive. You have a lot of people trying to get on the same waves, not enough waves. All of a sudden, here comes this new sport. It's called windsurfing. These guys are trying to get on the same waves as the surfers. Ooh, not a good idea. See, we don't have too far to take you. Yeah, but yes, here it is. When the waves are going both sides of this road, you'll see 1,000 cars here, all parked up and down the highway. You walk over there about a half a mile, maybe a kilometer, and it goes runs Kalo, K-A-L-O. Now, Taro Kalo was the most important thing to all Society Islands of Rapa Nui and Easter Island. Basically, it was a big triangle in the South Pacific. Now, as far as these Polynesians knew, the whole world was made up of island nations, and these islands were inhabited by Polynesians. They had no clue about Western civilization. And who's Western civilization? It's basically the rest of the world. They're traveling eastward. They use their navigational skills. They said they follow ocean currents and bird migrations. They'd follow an ocean current until it would divide, split up. This typically means there's a land up ahead. Yeah, the current's going to each side of it. Bird migrations. If you're ever stuck out in the middle of the ocean, you don't have a GPS, sextant, cell phone, or compass. Coconuts. Well, the coconut is the seed of the tree. Yeah, if you were ever pick up a coconut after it's fallen, if you shake it, it's got water in it. Yeah, they can survive on that water for 90 days. Well, that 90-day period, you've got the tide coming in and out twice a day. Sometimes you have large. Typically, it was over land and water rights. Sometimes thievery come in. Each district is self-supporting. Doesn't need the other district. You can collect water by, and all the district scouts are up on the mountains. They're looking at what Hawaiians relate loud noise and smoke to. Volcano. They think these cannons are actually the gods barking at them. But it wasn't the gods. It was Captain Cook. Everybody hear of Captain Cook? Yeah. Circumnavigate the globe, look for trade routes, islands to claim, treasures to take home. Now, like most explorers, he was long on guts, but he didn't have any money. Look at that rooster. But he didn't have any money, so he needed a sponsor. Well, Captain Cook's sponsor was an Englishman known as the Earl of Sandwich. The Earl of Sandwich was a famous gambler. When he got hungry, he'd want to eat at the table. Keep playing cards. The only problem was everybody ate with their hands back then. So he's getting the cards all greasy. So people started to bring it to his attention. He said, okay, fine. So he started to take all of his meat scraps, put them into loaves of bread. This is how your sandwich was invented. It's also why once he let these people in, he saw there was a lot of timber being cut to build factories and communities, extend railway systems. He felt guilty. So he sent out crews all over U.S. states and territories to plant tall trees. Well, Hawaii was a territory of Honolulu, and there was a splinter group that came over here, and they used all the male prisoners from K&I prison. Except that they planted over 40 inches, which is, 550 centimeters a year. So it gets very wet. Most of this rain happens at nighttime, not the daytime. This is a little wall here. See this little wall? These are miniature dams, reservoirs to hold up the water. They run it into that grate system. It goes down to the Central Valley, to the sugarcane fields. This is called a diversion wall. We didn't have a place to build a big dam, so they built a... Bamboo can grow anywhere from 5 to 10 centimeters a day. It grows very fast. They make these big trails like this here. I don't know what they're looking for. You go down there a half a mile, it's still going to look like this. It doesn't change. But they go down there, they get lost all the time. Rangers have to go find them. They make all these trails. The worst thing is it's private property. They shouldn't be there. Here's some interesting trees. You see a lot of these on the island, right here on the left. These are called rainbow eucalyptus, otherwise known as Mindanao gum trees. Mindanao is actually an island in the Philippines. Now, most people don't realize as small a state as Hawaii is, are actually the 5th largest producers of beef in the United States. You see all these cattle ranches. There are cattle all over. In fact, the largest independently owned cattle ranch is on the big island of Hawaii. It's called Parker Ranch. 330,000 acres. You see all this more bamboo here on the left.
Бамбук, знаешь, что такое?
Бамбук, да. А вот эти деревья, что за деревья?
Не знаю, фотографирую, он что-то говорил про них удивительно. Что за деревья, не знаю.
Может, это из этой древесины делают вот такие красивые?
Ну, книги почитаю, но не думаю. Мне интересно тем, что у них как бы вроде бы коры нет, и
You have a lot of these trees with the orange blossoms up in them. These are African tulip trees.
African tulip.
For some reason, about 50 years ago, somebody decided the rainforest was too green, so they wanted to bring in some bright colors. So they bring in these African tulip trees and jacaranda trees from South America. And the African tulip trees have just taken off. They've become a weed. Yeah. They have ideas, and they implement them, and then of course, once they get to be out of hand, They don't know what to do. There's no management plan for them. That's the same with animals too. Yeah, they brought over 9 axis deer back in 1959 as pets. And plans. They're on the golf courses. And worse than that, they're causing a lot of accidents on the road. You're allowed to hunt them, but you can't hunt them at night. Now we're going to show you the most important tree to all Polynesians. It's called the kukui nut, or nicknamed the candle nut tree. And it's the lightest shade of green we have in the rainforest. We have all the greens, but this one's the lightest. It's like a lime green, yellow green. See all those light colored trees? Those are all kukui nut trees. Now where they get the nickname candle nut, Hawaiians used to harvest the nuts. They crack them open. It's very oily, yeah? So they take the meat from 2 or 3 kukui nuts and light them on fire. It would give you a big flame. It would last a good 35, 40 minutes. So this was their light. Trouble going to the bathroom. He would tell you, eat a kukui nut. It's a laxative. Cleans you right out. Yeah? Don't eat too many of them, though. All that now. They have a saying. You eat 1 kukui nut, you go to the bathroom. You eat 2 kukui nut, you run to the bathroom. So, see that? Just want to have one covered in bamboo. That left side there used to look like the right side here. See where you have a variety of plants and trees all over the place? We have 250 pounds, you know. Big, mean, ugly. Got the big, you know, teeth on them. You're allowed to hunt those, but you cannot shoot them. You can only use bows, arrows, crossbows, and spears, knives. So people hunt them with this to be hand cut. Yeah. And by the time you get done cutting a certain area of bamboo, it's already growing back. So never ending. Yeah? It's non-stop. That's a good job security. Places to eat. This guy's got the emu bits. You guys know what emu is? When they cook underground? Yeah.
Сюда вывалится. Хорошая была остановочка.
Now let's talk about birds. We used to have 15 to 1800 species. We're down to 400. Well, when all the boats started coming over, Westerners, there was a few unwanted guests that jumped off. Specifically mice and rats. You know, a pair of mice, rats, they have a gestation period of 30 days. They have litters up to 10. Within 1 year, one pair can turn into thousands. Well, by the 1860s, all the islands had mice and rats on them. These supposed experts from all over. This one group came in and said, you know, in India they got this thing called the mongoose. It's a very quick little creature. They fight the mongoose against the cobra. The snake, gamble on who's going to win. Only problem is the mongoose always wins. It's a lot quicker. What they gamble on is how big the arena is. The smaller the arena, the more it favors the snake. But anyway, after a fight, they would reward the mongoose. Now everybody knows there's no snakes in Hawaii. These supposed experts overlooked one small detail. Mice and rats come out at night, mongoose in the daytime. They never see each other. Yeah? So they found other ways of dealing with mice and rats. All right, what's that got to do with birds? All native birds were ground nesters. In ceremonial cloaks. You might see some kings and chiefs pictures of how many birds were here. Yeah. And depending on what type of king you were, you had different levels of kings, was what colors you could wear. Yeah. If you were the overall king, elite king, it would be all red feathers with yellow trim. If you were a war chief, it would be all yellow, but it'd have these big red horizontal spearheads going across it. And if you're a regular chief, it could be any color other than Hono Manu. Hono means valley, Manu means bird.
Там мы будем купаться.
В этой бухте?
This lovely little Hono Manu Bay down here. And this is home to one of my favorite sea creatures called the Honu. Anybody know what the Honu is? H-O-N-U? Hawaiian green sea turtle. See down in Hawaii Bay. Ulua Beach right next to you, or right on, right where you are. There's a lot of them out there. If you need. You got some beautiful coastlines to walk around. Good picture spot. K&I means inherited land. Inherited from the gods.
Ты не замечала, что деревья обвиты цветком, который у нас, в принципе, растет в горшке? Такие, знаешь, вот как бы большие листья зеленые. На самом деле, как плющ или лиана.